This is The Blockchain Show. The Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies cryptocurrency and distributed ledger technology.
Hello, blockchain podcast fans. It's Ian here, and we've got a delight for you today. Have you ever thought about mining your own coins in your basement, or actually creating your own coins, or doing something around that in between the day job and all the other strains of everyday life? Well, as a change from the norm, we're speaking to two people who are actually doing this themselves, and they're going to take us through how they came to create their own cryptocurrency in their basement, while also having the troubles of a normal daily life, such as feeding children, going to work, and mowing the lawn. So without further ado, please lend your ears to Daniel, who's going to tell us a bit about his coin. Daniel and Thomas, welcome to the show.
Hey. Hi. Thanks for inviting us on. It's wonderful. It's a great show. We really enjoy listening.
Thank you. And I think this is going to be a great show because there's something inside all of us which says we should have done exactly what you've done a few years ago. But hey, we're still here and we're still listening. So I'm just going to crack open a beer here and you tell us about your crypto coin.
Well, there's a backstory to that. I spent about 30 years in the martial arts business, in the health club business, and developed certain techniques and methodologies for billing and tuition and retention and that sort of thing. We ran major national tournaments for karate tournaments and martial arts tournaments for years and years on St. Simon's Island. And we did a lot of work in that area. So we know that. If I were peanut farming, I would have a peanut farming cryptocurrency. But what we have is we have a martial arts coin. And martial arts coin with the designator MXRT is out there. We had no intention of starting a cryptocurrency at first, but sure. Absolutely not. We started like everybody else, basically. My first exposure to Bitcoin was a friend of mine back in 2010 who worked for the elementary schools, had a whole bank of computers, and he wanted to mine some crazy internet's money called Bitcoin. And I thought he was crazy, read up on it a little bit, thought it was a great idea. We forgot to talk to each other about it. Never did it. Yeah. And that's, we all have these stories that you should do a podcast on. The story, right? My friend almost got me into Bitcoin back in 2012, Everybody has that. So I haven't been seething or anything about it, but then I ran into a good friend of mine who had bought at 600, and he was very well off from it. And he showed me his treasure, and I was instantly in love. This was last year sometime. And I said, okay, that's it. I'm not missing this time. I'm not missing out on it. So I basically went to work and got myself a little bit of a college education in crypto. We started mining. Thanks, YouTube. Yeah, thank you, YouTube. And thank you, Twitter. And
so many.
Oh, yeah, so many. It's been wonderful. So we started to mine. Initially, I bought a little S7. Remember those? It's like that's the Model T. From Bitmain, and started mining Bitcoin, and then we started mining. We put together. Never have done put together a computer ever. Yeah. Then we started building out a little farm out with AMD and NVIDIA Ethereum miners. We were mining Zcash and Monero and all sorts of things, and we had a lot of fun with that, and that's still running. But
so a quick question before we talk about martial arts.
Okay.
The Karate Kid movie.
Okay.
Those people who are listening and understand what I'm talking about. How did you work out the power consumption versus reward ratio? How did that work?
Well, we were mining on the way up last year, so it was it was a lot better. It was we worked it out basically using what to mine and using some of those calculators that were there online, very easy to get to. And, what our hash rate was per our card. And we became pretty good at that. I immediately, well, not immediately because I am a bit of a slow learner, but within 2 or 3 months, realized that this is a really wasteful thing that I'm doing. Not that it's not worth it, not that we're not going to come up with green ways to mine Bitcoin and Ethereum, solar,
I hope so.
Yeah, for sure. But we understood that this can't be it. So we started looking around, and of course we discovered burst first, and I still have burst mining all over the
hard
place.
drive mining.
That was saving energy, and it was mining coins. And then we also were looking at other things, and we looked at Ripple. Of course, I had been a fan of Jed McCaleb for a long time. I created Ripple, and had created Mt. Gox too, well before the hack, and got rid of it well before the hack. But we just thought a lot of him. We liked his kind of his philosophy, helping unbanked people all over the world in remittances. And when he created Stellar, it looked like the thing that we really, really liked. So I just happened to be having a conversation with a couple of my black belts who still have schools and are working very hard at that. And I said, we could really help the industry because, for one thing, most of the equipment is manufactured overseas, Pakistan, Vietnam, other places. So when a major supplier here in the United States wants to buy, wholesale from them, they're paying huge bank fees. It's taking forever, of course, to get across. But there's a lot of problems there: credit card fees, everything that has to do with this kind of a transfer across borders. Well, that is exactly what Stellar is made for. It came up in the world of remittances to make them very cheap for people to send money immediately with almost no fee, less than a cent of a fee, across the world. And when I saw that, I saw, well, there's our first use case. And so now we have launched a cryptocurrency called Martial Arts Coin. And as one of our first use cases, we're putting together a thing called the MXRT Place, or Marxist Place. Sounds like a communist thing, doesn't it? It's not. I promise you. Marxist Place. It's terrible. But we'll probably not pronounce it like that. But it's going to be we'll have both escrow services for less, for people without the trust line set up with the manufacturers. But for people who are used to dealing with them, we're going to allow that conduit between fiat on one side and fiat on the other for manufacturers and suppliers here in the United States or all over the world. So that's our first use case that we had for it when we launched. The second one was, and this really came about when we saw the Stellar Pay Band. And I'm not sure if your listeners have heard about that, but it's an amazing device. It's basically a wrist. It's almost like a Fitbit, but it's a wallet for Stellar, especially for Stellar tokens. I'm sure they're going to extend past that. But it uses RFD, or it uses a contactless system to be able to register someone who comes in and wants to use the MXRT or XLM Stellar Lumens to make purchases. And it was recently used at the Chicago Food Truck Festival with great success. So we're aboard with them. So can you imagine, let's say just the regular karate school, you get your orange belt. Well, you get a little orange wristband, little orange Stellar Pay Band, and so you can handle events with this stuff. You can pay ancillaries there, pro shop stuff, concessions, facility access, keep up with tuition. It's an amazing thing. So we're building out software for that, for point of sale. The last very weird thing is we're going cross-chain. We're going cross-chain to the ERC 721 collectibles world and the gaming world. So that's the last arm. We have 3 arms there, and the last arm is that. And we are developing gaming and characters for ERC 721 non-fungible tokens that are collectible. And we're giving those out actually in our airdrop for our MXRT. So we have Stellar and Ethereum getting along with each other for a moment. It's very nice. So anyway, that's my spiel. That's what we do. And we just launched a week ago.
So many questions, and this is great. And if you're listening at home or driving your Audi A4, which I say on your way home from work, I've got Daniel and Tara in front of me, and they're sitting at home, and they look very relaxed. It's not like chatting to the normal interviews where somebody's trying to get all their points across. They look very relaxed and chilled out, which means that on your journey you must have had problems, challenges. Like you went from mining to creating your own coin. What were the challenges you faced along the way?
You were asking about what power consumption, how we dealt with the power consumption with the mining. We dealt with it personally, but when we were thinking about creating a coin, we as much as we love mining, and we do, it was what got me into the whole, that I believe that was my gateway into cryptocurrency, was being able to mine it at home. It's like growing money on trees. It's just amazing.
It's a game too.
Yeah, and
gamified.
Yeah, I just loved it.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to put like that type of power consumption out there in order to create our coin, which is why we chose a platform like the Stellar platform to create our coin on top of, so that we could just create the bunch of coin instead of having to have people mine it and expend energy in that way. And we really wanted to follow a coin that we believed in, like we do with the Stellar platform. There are several others that we like. When we started talking to our main developer, he and his website, it kind of all like...
It really has been the strangest
Kismet.
thing in the world, Kismet. It's been ridiculous, because the second that I started approaching other old friends, many who are already developers, Kevin Phillips is our chief developer, and he has built out our airdrops, built out our websites, building out the MXRT place, and creating the first ERC 721 tokens, which we'll never get him out of that world.
Yeah.
That is too much fun. It's too much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, but when we started doing that, it was things just fell into place. I said, okay, I talked to the developers. I said, we need a wallet. We have to develop this wallet. And then boom, there it is. It's already there. We're on Stellar. So when you're on Stellar, you go to Stellar Port, you go to Stellar X, you go anywhere, you can easily add a trust line to our token. We're immediately there. There's no goofing around with a lot of that stuff. So things just started falling into place along with our business plan. And it was lovely. And now we have a nice team of about 8 people working on this all over the United States. We're not all in one little place. We're not in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
We didn't do an ICO, and we're not going to. We certainly want to be distanced. And I'm not meaning to offend anyone who enjoyed ICOs, because I participated in several last year, and some were good. I did pretty well with some of them. Unfortunately, the things that have gone on around the ICOs and all this, it's just, it doesn't help adoption. We're more about adoption. Yeah. We're about use cases and adoption. We will grow slowly. We have no interest in pumping and dumping or we don't want to go that route. We want to build an actual business that will last a decade or two, right? And move on from there, because we have MMA events. You have every sort of thing in the world we can use this for, because it's their coin.
So I imagine you've chatted to your local karate clubs and friends in karate, and you said, hey, get rid of money, right? What we're going to do, it's almost like the Boy Scouts. It's like, hey, we're going to give them all a woggle each and tell them to tie each other up. No.
No, I get you. I get what you're asking. It's a great question, because absolutely not. No, not at all. What we're doing, we know that the space is not ready. We realize that we're building for a thing that will be here in maybe a year, in maybe 9 months. We wish, right?
Yeah. I don't see adoption. Come on.
But certainly in the next 2 years, the new world of adding cryptocurrency to Square, adding cryptocurrency to regular transactions, where people don't even care or think about what currency sometimes. That's what we want, is to be there for those people who don't care about mining, never heard of Ethereum, doesn't know who Vitalik Buterin is, or Tone Vays, or anybody else in the space. They don't know these people at all, and they don't care about them. What they want to do is they want to serve their students. They want to serve the people who come to their MMA events or tournaments, and they want them to come back and have retention. And so we're trying to build tools within this particular cryptocurrency, because we're from this business, that help with that. So it's gonna be a while. We're set up for that. We're set up. Yeah. But Ian, the thing that I've seen this last year, it's not so much, and this is my opinion, obviously, but it's not so much to me that ICOs, that so many ICOs were scams. One of the biggest problem we had last year is that when you give a 22-year-old $7 million, why on earth would he show up to work? The motivation seeps away. And so a lot of these guys just got crazy flipping rich. And, it wasn't the excitement of building something wasn't there anymore. I mean, sure, we'd love that. Okay, give us $7 million. That's fine. But, we're not, that's not what we are. And it powered, more power to the folks who did that and are really creating excellent things, because there's some great coins out there. They need to stop fighting with each other.
I just feel like our intention was never like to get rich off of it, as much as it would be nice to profit. Our intention comes from a genuine belief in a cryptocurrency market,
yes,
or economical system around the world, and genuine love for the business. Dan was in it for so long, and I'm less into the martial arts and more into the banking, but I have certainly participated. My stepfather was a black belt in Aikido, and
right down there in Orlando.
Yeah, my mom's husband, and he was my first influence into martial arts, and getting into that space has always been something that I've enjoyed, even though I didn't ever like pan out from it. So, but I believe that our intention is one that is truly trying to be helpful instead of, profitable, even though we do hope to profit.
So
maybe one day.
So we're not Jesus here. Yeah. We want to make money and we want to do well, but we want to do that without the bad karma that surrounds so much of what you see. It's avoidable, I'm telling you.
That's a great name for a new coin. Why don't we do that? Good karma. We coined it here. We coined the phrase.
It would immediately be a scam coin.
Okay. Well, what we do is we start good karma coin and a bad karma coin, and see which one does well.
I like that. I like that a lot.
There we go. So perhaps this is how you make money. Perhaps if somebody's got an idea for a coin, they could come to you. You've already done it once. You could create a coin for, I don't know, anything, makeup coin, anything like that.
Well, it takes 11 minutes to put together a coin on almost any platform. It's so easy. Yeah. I think it looks like a problem right now, but I think that the future will shake that out. I think that's a good thing. I think the more the better, and the more they shake out, the ones that don't have use cases, and the more that are circular with each other, that they're basically the echo chamber bouncing off this consensus, that consensus, and creating the same thing over and over again. The more you see that, the more it's going to shake out some of the ones that weren't there, supposed to be there in the first place. And I mean, hey, if you can create good karma coin and you can pay for coffee with it because no one will care what cryptocurrency it is, whatever the value is at the moment, maybe that's the future we have. And that will be very interesting, because guess what? You don't have to use a bank for that. No. You don't have to ask anybody. You could just do it, and it's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. So, sorry.
No, that's the interesting thing you said without us even talking about this, because I've never spoken to you before this podcast.
Right.
But the constant thing which is coming up in interviews lately is the fact that everybody believes that nobody really cares what they're going to be using. All they're going to be using is some system that makes their life easier. And all I can think of like this is the Disney band. So that when you go to Disney, you wear this band, and that gets you in, you pay for everything. It's a similar sort of thing. It's almost Disney bucks, as we might say. Sure. The other thing I like is the fact that you're doing something you're passionate about, which means that really it can't fail, because passion breeds enthusiasm, and you've got people around it, and you know the existing business model. So it can't fail as a coin. I think it's a great idea, and the fact that you're not aiming for the stars. You're like, hey, we've got a coin out there. We know how it should be used. We just need the general public to catch up with this, and then say, oh gosh, we've got a need, and this is going to make our business cheaper, better, and easier to operate. Oh look, there's something already there which we can do it that's established.
We're hoping that will be the case. And I think also in the future, though, that companies who want to do this, I mean, they'll create their own cryptocurrency. It won't take but a second to do, right? But not the infrastructure we're working to build. And that's the big thing. We're going to have it already there. Like you said, we're going to have that in place when they catch up with the idea that, oh, that could save me $500,000 a year. Why don't I do that? Good idea. So, and also dealing with martial artists my whole life in lots of different martial arts and really just loving it. They like having things of their own. That's the reason you wear a karate or Brazilian jiu-jitsu gi uniform when you go to work out. You're not wearing cutoffs because that's the tradition. That's the reason why you wear the obi or the belt. It's the tradition. And we, in a very real way, in its own way, would like to eventually become a tradition amongst martial artists. Something that, if you want to pass money around or help somebody out or do anything else or pay tuition or whatever, why not use your own coin? Why not? Because it's right there. So, and that is, that might be starry-eyed,
We even set up our airdrop like that.
We did. Our airdrop set up so that you go to different levels and you earn different belts, So it's a lot of fun. We gamify the airdrop.
I think tradition has a lot to play in the future. I think with the decline in religion and the amount of distrust around politicians, I think people are now looking for something else. And there's nothing wrong with tradition. And certainly with my influence on other people's children, I'm always like very much no electronics at the table, traditional way, because it works. And that's also why if I get invited to a wedding anywhere, I will turn up in a top hat and tails, no matter where it is. It's in Florida.
That's wonderful. Really? That's fantastic.
You're so British.
I know.
I think that's lovely. No, that's fantastic. I love that. That makes me happy. I'm following suit. That's it.
From now on, top hat and tails.
Literally following
on
suit.
the beach. Let's do it.
Do that.
Right. You invite me to the beach for a big party, we'd do it.
That's right. We'll do that for sure.
Top hat, tails, and cut-off shorts. There we go. That's what we call smart casual.
Well, that's Floridian right there.
Yeah.
I grew up down there. I know. That's Floridian. All right. So, but that's pretty much what we're up to right now. We're working with the Stellar Pay Band. We're working with other folks. I just brought one of my black belts, Kimber Tyree, was the person who created a program called Little Dragons. And Century Martial Arts, which is probably the largest. I'm not sure, but I think it probably has to be the largest supplier in the United States. Worked with her to develop Little Dragons programs and equipment and things like that. And she knows the market even better than I do because she's been at it a lot longer. And she has now come aboard as our business-to-business person. So it's a very exciting time. It's a really busy time. It's a really busy time, but it's exciting. As you know, because you're in the space, and many of the listeners know, you're just kind of glued to that phone, and you're looking at Coinbase and CoinMarketCap, and you're watching all the things go on, and it's an exciting time. We'll look back on these times as, you remember back when blah blah blah, no one knew what it was. So it'll be fun.
Yeah, we're going to look back on this as the Stone Ages when we're in that time at home going, oh, I remember when we used to use paper money. Oh. Yeah.
I still have some somewhere in a photo album.
Exactly. So where are you?
Paper money. I never have cash.
She loves paper money. She was a banker and a head teller.
I love playing with paper money, but do I carry it?
No. But if I give her any, a pile of bills that are 10 or more, she can do things with it like Penn and Teller would do with cards. Oh. It's insane. She's so fast.
Yeah, but I think a lot of women know how to look after money. It's unfortunately men. Men that squander it on a lot of toys and frivolous things. Oh,
she certainly saved our life as CFO. Oh. Yes, she has.
There was a very, very famous football player in England who drank a lot, who said, I've spent a lot of money on cars and alcohol, and the rest of my money I squandered.
Yes.
I'm probably misquoting him. I think he mentioned ladies in there as well. But anyway,
of course, right.
let's try and be PC in this age of whatever's going on in politics.
Certainly.
So what was the biggest point on the learning curve? What can you tell our listeners about your journey which they can learn from?
If you're going to launch a cryptocurrency, spend 6 months looking at how to launch a cryptocurrency.
Don't do what we did.
Don't necessarily do what we did, which is to just launch a cryptocurrency, because there are rules folks. There are rules that we don't even know about.
Yeah, they're so hard to figure out.
I mean, if you want to get onto, if you want to be seen on some of the social media, the folks who have their hierarchy of like powers that be, you have to go by every little rule they have to even have your announcements stay on there. It's not easy. There are powers out there already that are, this is not. How can I put this? We want to look at a person to peer-to-peer, decentralized, frictionless, censorship-resistant space. But what we're doing is we're setting up these little centralized places all over, and it's inevitable. We are just humans, and we do it. Whether it's a social media site that has you have to earn a specific amount of credits to be able to post there, to have something out there. It's there. So spend some time, get an expert to help you do it that way. Now we've done that, but we had to go back and do it. So it took some time. That was the hardest thing, getting the launch out there, I would say, because everything else just fell into place like it was meant to be. It has been amazing. Right here, and I'm talking about, we did this in the slump. So if you're looking at that Moore's diagram of adoption, or you're looking at the trough of what is disillusionment, which we're trying to crawl out of right now into our productivity phase here in crypto. If you're looking at either one of those, we launched at the bottom of the world, and we kind of wanted to, so that we could build that way. I would hate to have launched in January of this year. I mean, that would have been terrible. Really, probably would have been terrible.
Yeah.
So it's a good time to do it.
Yeah, exactly. And for the listeners at home, Tara is busy looking at Daniel as if he's telling this story for the first time, but I'm sure she's heard it many times. But they look very happy people. They look very comfortable. And as you say, launching it when the market's at the bottom, the only way is up, really. Where are you on the journey? You've launched your coin. You're doing airdrops.
Well, we're in phase 1 right now, which is our airdrop, which is getting coins out to the people who are in cryptocurrency who want to get in early.
Right now, it's our social media push.
Yeah, social media push for the airdrop. So we want them to get into their hands early, so they have them. Okay, and then we're also doing the same thing with influencers, people in the martial arts who can use this. And then we're going to we're not doing an ICO, because we are a currency. We are not trying to be an asset. Hint, hint. All right, so don't expect that from us. So we're doing our very best to, then we're going to be offering on Stellarport, Stellar Swap, even Stellar X and Lobster. You can add us very easily for exchanges and for purchasing the coins if you don't want to go with the airdrop. When the market's down low enough to do that. We want to offer, that will be phase 2, will be pushing toward getting the coins in circulation and purchases started. And after that, phase 3 will be working towards our adoption integration into these payment systems. Because truthfully, as a currency, I mean, you don't want to be zero to nothing, right? But it doesn't matter so much what our valuation is, because if it goes in the pipeline here and it's at this rate, it's going to come out right there immediately in less than 3 seconds. In Pakistan or in Vietnam, it's going to come right out there.
Indonesia.
We're very big in Indonesia. That's airdrop. People are really on it from there. So in other words, as a currency, that the market's vagaries are not so important. You know what I mean? For the functionality of our currencies in some ways. So it's not our biggest. It's not the most important thing to us. It's just not right now. So moving from one place to the other, that's the important thing. And so as we build that out and it becomes used more often and it becomes more of an adopted currency, certainly it should do very well. But we're not pushing it that way. We're doing our best to build out something that actually works and can be used as a currency. That's the most important thing to us. That's basically what we're doing. That's our, and then we other phases after that, but that's our first 3 phases.
I want to open up the marketplace and the game. Oh boy, very intense.
We shouldn't do that. We'll never leave it. Well, I mean, we're building out our game platform, and we're using our ERC 721s and ERC 1155s so that they can be attached. And it's going to be an amazing game because we know we're martial artists, and so it's going to be a lot of fun to build that out. And getting lost in that narrative and working at that and creating something that special is going to be fun too, and completely opposite of everything else around the coin universe that we're developing. So, is there something there for just about everybody?
We hope.
We will see.
Yeah.
It could just be, us having fun with it.
Yeah.
So whatever.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's fun for us.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun
it's
for us.
certainly all there for us.
Yeah.
As long as you're having fun, then
Absolutely.
that means that you're providing something good, hopefully, and you're enjoying it. Therefore, you're going to stick at it. And
Sure.
it's not
The hardest thing that I have found with having this cryptocurrency launch and just being in the industry realm or whatever you want to call it is FUD. Good Lord, it is so hard to keep up your own energy when you get so much flack from the world within. It's frustrating to watch cryptocurrency entities fight with each other. And when my biggest concern as a person who believes in cryptocurrency is education, adoption. Like, I want people to stop fighting about it and start just doing it.
And I understand. I mean, it's not just egos that are involved. Billions and billions of dollars there, but like watching the cruise video,
the Bitcoin cruise.
Watching some of these things where you have these folks who should really, should be getting along. It's like that Oklahoma song. The farmer and the cowman should get along.
That's beyond my category.
That they should really be working with each other, because you know what's against them? Everything in banking that's ever been created for the last 300 years is up against you. So let's get together and let's not fight. It's important.
You bring up 2 interesting things at the moment. The banking industry is trying to create their own coin, which they control amongst themselves, which is, that's interesting. That's not really the right ethos, but there we go.
Right.
But also,
Concept lost here.
Right.
Yeah. What you say about fighting, there's a great article on the web talking about how a certain other political government from another country is trying to influence America, and it's just trying to get us to fight about stuff, whether that's women's rights, men's rights, everything. And I think that social media used to be a vacuum of time, and now it's become a massive vacuum of time with people arguing with people they don't know about, with subjects they know a little bit about or a lot about, but
not really much. No.
The world seems to be imploding into big argument about who's right, who's wrong, and I think the winners can be the people who just get on and do things. It reminds me of when I met some good consultants. I employed them, and I said, "What's your strategy with email?" And they said, "That's easy. You open it up in the morning, you look at it, then you close it down. You look at it at lunchtime, and look at it at the end of the day. The rest of the time, you're being productive." And I'm like, well, what about the emails that come in during the day? He said, "Yeah, but what about my productivity?" It's the same sort of thing, that we can't get sucked down that little rabbit hole about arguing about things. Cryptocurrency is going to have a place. It will be the future.
It will be.
Mm-hmm.
It will take a while to be adopted, but there will be a point where it gets adopted, and there will be a point when Bitcoin's hacked and people get worried about security. But hey, the world's not that secure at the moment.
No,
so
it's just not. And in this space, we're in Deadwood. We're in Deadwood, and there's guys walking around with soap with a prize inside. They're doing everything they can to get everything from you, and that's going to continue for a while. So people are going to have to get used to that. and they're going to have to learn to work around. And the only way to do it is to get together the way people always have against this sort of thing, and talk to each other. You know, that person looks pretty shady. Speaking of, the stellar community was able to stop, and I'm not going to mention what the coin was able to kind of shut down a scam just by talking to each other in this last week. And it was fascinating to watch. And it's a great example of what can be done. You know, if people aren't fighting about stuff, it's great. And I hate seeing that. I really do. Because, man, I believe in all these legitimate coins who are working at doing things in the world and changing it and giving the power back to the people rather than, you know, the large institutions. Good for them.
I really think that's what's been most heartbreaking to watch, especially getting into cryptocurrency when it was booming so high, and everybody loved it, especially Ethereum with all the potential with the smart contracts and all of these amazing projects are being, gosh, there were several that just were so inspiring when we first got into the just space in general, doing our own research about the things that were happening with smart contracts and the coins that were popping up around them. My goodness, the potential is so like world altering and freeing and really taking control of things that are just immutable, and they're yours and nobody can hack that or steal it or anyway, it was so inspiring. And that's been my like least favorite thing that's happened in the space, is just watching so much fall from grace, essentially, like all of these beautiful projects and potential be shot upon because of whatever ICOs scams or scam coins or whatever's happened. And
because there's so many good legitimate
there are so many wonderful things out there that people are trying to really
what else is AI going to do? If what else are we going to do with autonomous vehicles running on a smart contract that belong to a community? How are you going to run them? You have to run them on a smart contract with a cryptocurrency. These things are all coming, and this is part of the crypto space. There's no other way. What else are going to run it on Visa? I don't think so. You know, how can you do it? And we're in a position right now. What is it? Population's 327. What is it? 327 million.
Mm-hmm.
And active participants in the martial arts right now are around 5. Yeah, 5 million. And that's not counting people who watch MMA events. That doesn't count anything outside the United States, where it's much larger. Fencing events, wrestling, boxing, these are all part of that martial tradition. And we're working to become part of that, trying to, we're going to promote fighters, we're going to promote competitors, we're going to promote schools, we're going to do lots of things like that. So these are all coming down the line in, phase 5 and 6.
One of our guys will be teaching a boxing class, and we'll start accepting.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So that's awesome. Yeah. So it's our first venture into boxing. So that's fun.
So Daniel, how did you get into martial arts? What's the story?
Oh my gosh, that's too long.
Oh, that's one of my favorite stories.
No. Well, as a 9-year-old, I didn't have my dad around very much, at all, actually. I had been, because we had been so poor, I had been sent to a place called the Georgia Industrial Home in Macon. And I spent a year there getting beat up and abused every day. When I got out of there, when I was about 9, that wasn't going to happen anymore. And I begged my mom to let me take karate. These guys came to my church, some Taekwondo instructors named Young Sun Sion and Young Sun Sil came to our church to do demo when I was a kid. And it was they were superhumans. They were Batman. They could take on a bunch of guys, and not get beat up by them every day. So I said, I'm going to, right. Well, I said, I want to do this. And she said, well, if you can pay for it, I'll let you do it. So I started working in the back of McBride's auto parts store every afternoon and on the weekends, and earned the money to take Taekwondo. And I got to my black belt there and went on to Shorinji Kimpo and went on to JKD and other art forms. Really enjoyed it. Kali Eskrima. And so I've had a whole lifetime with that. A lot of really wonderful students, a lot of wonderful mentors and instructors. It is part of my world. And I was able to become the #1 fighter in the Southeast back in 1988, which was okay back then. That was all right. So that was the PKL ratings in Karate Illustrated. So folks kind of know me a little bit. Not I'm not Keith Vitale or Chuck Norris, but they know who I am. Most of the old guys do. So I've got that going a little bit for me, I hope. But yeah, it's
legendary.
I used to be a pretty good kicker. A couple fights online. Watch those. I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, no, it was a lot of fun doing it. And when I was in the Army, I hurt my back pretty badly, and it got worse and worse. So I got to the point where I really couldn't still teach the way I wanted to. Went back to school with no credits. And eventually got a couple of master's degrees. I have a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing from Queen's University in Charlotte, and I have a psychology master's from University of West Alabama. And I teach. I'm a college instructor now, so enjoy that a lot. I get to teach a tech class in one of my schools, and of course, we have an entire unit in my seminars that we go through blockchain, and we spend a lot of time there. So.
That's wonderful. Good. I look forward to your online video seminars.
Oh, these should be fun. No, you don't. You look forward to her online video seminars.
Well, if you have been looking at our website, by the time you see this, you will see Tara's promotional video for the coin, and it's different from what you're used to, the blockchain content, shall we say. Daniel let us use that, so that's probably what brought you here, to see and find out what exactly is going on.
What in the world is this?
Exactly. So how do people find you?
Spain Coin would have used it.
Oh.
Oh, that's going to get you into trouble with.
I'm already in trouble. It's not going to help any.
There we go. Well, yeah. So how do people find you? What's the website? What's the coin? Where do they go to?
Well, it's martialartscoin.io. Martialartscoin.io. Our designator for trading is MXRT. And if you use any Stellar exchange, especially the new DEX, man, that is a beautiful, beautiful DEX. Stellar X is really nice.
I love it.
But we have been on Stellar Swap and Stellar Port since the beginning. They have listed us since the beginning and supported us in so many ways. Ridiculously, there's a ridiculous amount of support. The feel within the Stellar community is it's different. It's a different feel than any other. And I've been in the other communities, not launched coins there, but I have been, active in other communities, in social media. It's a different world. They seem to have a moving philosophy of really kind of helping human beings out of the mess they're in. I mean, that's their thing. And so, and then helping people who are unbanked to become banked in the developing world. We're really happy to be on Stellar. Let's put it that way. We love it. We really do, and we believe in what they're doing. So
fabulous.
Yeah, that's us.
I think the big takeaways are really, if you're listening to this on a Friday night in the car on the way home, don't open a 6-pack when you get home and then start your own coin. Do the research first and look into it.
Oh my God, yes.
And read your SEC stuff.
Yeah.
Know what's going on, and get an expert to help you with that.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of help with that stuff too. So it's important. It's very important. Especially here in the U.S., it's a little more restricted to just do that. So,
yeah.
Especially if you plan on running an ICO, you're going to need a bank of folks to help you. We really are, and we're really happy not to have gone that direction. And look, Bitcoin did not have an ICO, folks. Bitcoin built naturally from the beginning, from nothing, and we basically are doing the same thing. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's working so far very well. We're really happy with it. So, yeah,
fabulous. It's been great talking to you, and I'm sure we're going to have you back on the show. I say that to everyone, and quite frankly, we're not going to have time to get everybody back. But I think your journey sounds interesting. It sounds something right there in our listeners' hearts. And hopefully you listening at home, it's given you some idea that you can actually live that dream of having your own cryptocurrency, or whatever you're going to call it. Fabulous. It's great speaking to you both.
It was great talking to you. We'll update you as we move along.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
Please do. The only thing left to do is to say to our listeners, thank you for downloading. Thank you for subscribing. And we need you to tweet us the phrase that pays so that we know you've listened to the end of the podcast. Daniel, what do you think the phrase should be that our listeners tweet us at the blockchain_show?
How about future of money?
Future of money. There we go. That's what we need. That's the phrase that pays. If you send us that, then we know you've listened this far and you might win something. Who knows? It might be a Mars bar, or it might be something from the treasures of the blockchain show. Thank you very much for downloading. It's goodbye from me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel, Tara. We wish you all the best.
To learn more, visit theblockchainshow.com.